Today, we are going to randomly drop in on our local fish stores to see how they run and operate their business. And then we're going to stop off at Petco to see why the local fish store is always the better choice. We're getting ready to pull up at the first one. Let's see how this goes.
We got the clowns over here in saltwater. They are completely on their own system because they are all from the same supplier, ORA. And they're all captive bred, captive raised. So they're on their own system. We can add as much salt water as we want, and it'll overflow into a vat back here that these 3 tanks are connected to. So this water stays really clean.
Now,
and enjoy the hobby.
New beginners getting into the hobby, what would you recommend? Because a lot of people like to do the cycling method with fish. What would you recommend as good starter fish for that?
So there's multiple ways to cycle a tank. You can do the ammonia method where you add a teaspoon of ammonia per 10 gallons every day. When you test at night and there's no ammonia, you've cycled the tank. Raw shrimp method where you put in a piece of raw shrimp. When the raw shrimp's completely dissolved, you start testing. When there's no ammonia, it's dissolved. Ghost feeding, so if you're going to start the tank with a couple clownfish, figure out what you're going to feed those clownfish, how much you're going to feed those clownfish, start putting that food in every day as if they're in there. When you're testing no ammonia, the tank can break down the waste you're going to be providing with those 2 clownfish so it's ready. We honestly use Fritz Turbo Start, put the fish in right away. Obviously in moderation, you'd still start with a clownfish or 2 depending on the size tank. But if you add Fritz Turbo Start, it's ready for fish right away.
So would you say clownfish are a good hardy pair of fish for...
Most people start with clownfish because they are super hardy. And then you got your inverts, that's the fun stuff. A lot of people kind of undervalue them in the beginning and then figure out that they're the most fun things to look for. The emerald crabs, the peppermint shrimp. And not too many places you're going to see a section like this either of $10 coral. And then quite a bit in our $20, $30, $40, $50 section.
You guys got some really big hammers here.
Yeah, a lot of different hammer. And then there's Raja Rampage Chalice, Styloensia, Monopora, Sophastria, another chalice, Avatar Chalice, Jack-o'-lantern Lepto.
Now, how are all these sump systems connected?
So, yeah, we can walk and do a behind the scenes.
That would be cool.
The 4 reef tanks come into this sump along with these 2 stacks.
Okay.
When we get our water system set up over here, we're going to have a Red Sea tub that is automated to pump X amount of Red Sea a day in this tank, so many times a day. And then this will overflow. And our reef tanks stay pristine compared to fish systems. Yeah. So the water from this will overflow and go into this vat. And then this vat controls our 3 fish systems.
So on the Apex, what are you dosing?
Reef Complete and Reef Carbonate by Seachem. And the reason we use those is the Reef Carbonate is more than just a buffer. It's a complex compound because there's multiple different compounds, whether you use soda ash or any of the other hardeners out there. Reef Complete or Reef Carbonate is a blend of those, and it also has boron and strontium in it. So it's adding other elements that you're not testing for, that you're not dosing, that your coral is absorbing. And then we use Reef Complete for the calcium because it's calcium, magnesium, and strontium. And then obviously you want a good skimmer on every reef tank. That pulls out a lot of waste.
Now, would you recommend oversizing or undersizing a skimmer?
So you kind of compete for nutrients. I definitely don't like oversizing a skimmer. For it to work efficiently, there's got to be nutrients for it. So you want a skimmer to get dirty. So if you oversize it, it's not really being as effective.
Yeah, I think oversizing used to be very effective back in the day when we used to run filter socks and we got too lazy, didn't change them out every 3-4 days and one every couple weeks. But now with fleece rollers like Red Sea, Carib Sea, Clur, but nutrients, it's almost like nowadays you can almost run without a protein skimmer anymore.
I've done plenty of reef tanks without a skimmer, softies and LPS, like dirty tanks. If you want to keep SPS, you need a skimmer.
Yeah, definitely with SPS,
But definitely wouldn't oversize it. I mean, if you're doing everything right, you can get away with not having a skimmer.
So what else, I know you got more back here. So this looks like your live rock.
Yeah, we just moved all this over here from over there, so we got a lot of your real live rocks, some really cool pieces actually from the ocean, really porous, and then your different architecture pieces that are purple, the man-made.
Now these look like the Carib Sea arches. Is that what this is?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And then this is Walt Smith Real Reef Rock.
Okay.
And then yeah, we have a large collection of new tanks.
Oh, these are the Aquarion Reef Ready tanks, aren't they?
Yep, yep.
Okay. Now, I know you're also remodeling. Is this part of your remodel work over here, or?
So, we're shrinking the store down to this area, for one, for ease of the customer, ease of finding stuff versus stuff being spread out all over the place. But yeah, we're probably going to set these tanks up and honestly just start breeding stuff in them, throw guppies in them, let them breed, throw mollies in them, let them breed. They don't need light, they really don't need heaters, and we can run them with sponge filters with one huge air pump. So, we want to try to aquaculture as much as we can back here. And that's what we're going to use.
Oh, I appreciate the tour, man. So
absolutely.
Visit number 1 done. Let's go and visit the second local fish store.
Gerbers Tropical Fish. We're a local fish store located in Dayton, Ohio. We specialize in fresh and salt water as well as we like to do on reptiles and amphibians.
All right, so what kind of stuff do you guys sell here? I see you guys have reptiles over here. I believe you do... Most of your gear you do for aquariums is up in this area. Then you have freshwater and then saltwater, correct?
Yes. So this is like our dry goods room is what we consider it. This is where almost all of our equipment is located. Everything from your filtration, lighting, chemical treatment, food, all that sort of stuff is in here. These are our nano cubes. These are an awesome beginner saltwater tank. If you've never set up a tank in salt before but are very interested, these are the tanks we recommend. The nano cube's a great starter tank, 28 gallons. Comes with everything you need to start a tank. Lighting, filtration. The only thing really technology-based that you'd really need to start for a beginner is going to be a heater. Even though a lot of people would tell you to go bigger on saltwater, I'm a huge proponent of that as well. This tank definitely kind of stands out as an outlier.
For starting out, most people always want to go small because it really is true when it comes to saltwater. Go bigger is really the best way to go. But we look at that cost up front when it comes to first getting in. And then it's like, let me start. Yeah, and then let me start here. Most people think when they go out, like with my water box, right? Nobody's going to go out and buy a 300-gallon system just to start right off. No. My 300-gallon system was $7,000. That's just the beginning. You haven't even touched the equipment yet. Yep. You still need all the equipment to run.
Yes. So that's I've got plenty of larger tanks for those looking to upgrade too. So this is my 120 bullet. Comes with the sump. Probably about 30 to 35 gallons, and then the tank itself, the main display is 120 gallons.
Where customers would come in and purchase either pre-mixed salt water. How many gallons would you say that holds?
700 each.
Oh my goodness.
So this is my Instant Ocean. This is a great, just saltwater fish only salt. And then the second vat over there, that one is going to be our Brightwell salt. That's our recommended reef salt. That's what we use here on all our reefing systems. Okay. Different around here, so call me into the fish room. This is our freshwater room. I have about 10,000 gallons of water here, if not more, running hundreds of tanks with tens of thousands of fish in them. We've got everything from freshwater stingrays down to micro reservoirs and tetras that are the size of your fingernail.
Now, as for sumps, how is this is this entire room connected into one sump?
No, so the room is broken down into several large systems. We have our 3 main systems, which we call them just by our rows. This is row 1 here. I have row 2 right in front of us. And then just on the other side of this sand filter is row 3. All of these gray bins that you see sitting underneath these tanks are all connected together. I have large filter socks that are able to filter out all large particulate out of the system. It's run through, and then even more live biomedia we have an active sand filter on these systems. Okay. Because we are using massive UV sterilization systems. You can actually see our UV tubes right there.
Now, typically with UV, to aim for a particular flow rate to be more geared toward algae or bacteria.
Yes.
So which one is that one more geared toward?
We're more focused on bacteria. Algae in our mind is not a bad thing. There's nothing wrong with a little bit of algae in your tank. In fact, it just tells you your tank's doing pretty well as long as it's not taking over.
Now, what is this? This looks like a big media reactor.
This is a massive media reactor. It's a sand filter. So we've got 40 pounds of sand being constantly tumbled in here. You can see, and it's just constantly allowing water to pass through these and letting the bacteria that's living on top of that sand to strip away the ammonia and the nitrite and make this water as safe as possible and healthy as possible for our fish here.
Cool.
So we've gotten into our plants here. Plants are definitely a big part of the freshwater aquarium world. Obviously, you don't see that so much with coral or with saltwater. The connection a lot of people would make, and a lot of people who are inexperienced, as coral is kind of the plant, so to speak, of the saltwater tank for those who kind of like that look. We definitely Plants are definitely a big thing. We are a huge proponent here of setting up a tank full of live plants. You definitely see a lot of benefits out of live plants, just like you see them out of coral in the saltwater.
Okay.
They help kind of suck down your nitrates. The more natural look definitely makes your fish feel more comfortable, helps them pronounce their more natural colors.
They do the same thing as Chaeto for us in the saltwater world. Now, as for testing, what do you guys? How often do you guys test?
Here we don't really worry about testing too much. Our systems are pretty large. We're doing pretty consistent water changes. We really test on an as-needed basis, more of looking at what issues are kind of going on with some of our different tanks. If we see something kind of stick out a little bit that's different than the usual, we'll definitely take our water out, test the standard, your pH, your ammonia, your nitrite, your nitrate. If that doesn't draw our answers, sometimes we'll look in a little bit further. You test everything before you just kind of dive into the nitty-gritty.
Okay.
There's a lot of simple things I think people pass over, like oxygenation and proper flow in a tank.
Now, when it comes to testing, do you guys offer that as is that charged or
no, it's
free?
It's complimentary service of coming in here. We definitely want people in here, and people spread the right information. So if a free water test is what brings people in, then we're happy to give it to you guys.
Okay, cool.
And then we'll make our way into our saltwater room. Pretty simple. First row you're looking at here, this is what we call our non-reef. For the most part, the fish you see over here are stuff we would not recommend in a reef tank, whether it's because they eat invertebrates, they're gonna affect your corals, or they may just eat all your fish. So we've got these, and then as we get to the other side of the row, you'll definitely see we have a lot of clownfish over there. Clownfish are most definitely reef safe. The only reason we have to put them over there is we get so many of them, it's quite hard to fit it into our reef safe row, which takes me over to the next row. The next row you have there, it's me all over your reef safe fishes, and some of which people would kind of argue are so-so. It kind of depends on what kind of reef tank you're setting up. I do have some angels over there that are definitely more on the reef safe side. Although we wouldn't guarantee you that every angel is going to be 100% reef safe.
Yeah,
most angels are definitely going to kind of pick on some coral.
Angels and butterflies have that right.
So, although we definitely have some individuals that may never pick on coral, I can't guarantee that a species as a whole are not.
Now, for these two systems, are they plumbed separately?
They are plumbed separately. So I've got my non-reef row and my reef safe row. And then the last row I have against the wall, that's my invertebrate row. You'll definitely see we do have fish over there. Maybe some of our more delicate fish or fish we want to show off a little bit better. It's also where we keep all of our inverts, everything from coral to shrimp, crabs, snails, the whole variety. We keep all those over there. We separate them just because we're able to medicate these fish because they're a lot harder than your invertebrates and some of our more delicate fish that may not be able to handle some of the medication we want to introduce into the system. That way the fish you take home are as healthy as can be, and we want to provide that for you.
Okay, so you guys do have quarantine systems here too then?
We don't quarantine, but I medicate a system as a whole on a regular basis so that any fish that you're wanting to get outside, if you happen to get a fish same day or a couple of days after it may have come in, has definitely been medicated at least once since it's been here.
Are you using copper?
We'll copper, and then we also use formaldehyde. We like formaldehyde over copper because while it's a lot stronger, it is kind of harder on the fish. It dissipates within 24 hours. So by the time I put it in, by the time I walk in the next day, formaldehyde's out of the system. It's done its job, and the fish are definitely a lot better off. I've got UV sterilization in here as well. So when we're coppering, we do take out our UV sterilizers because it does affect the ability of both UV and the copper. Yeah. But when the copper is run its course, we're able to turn that UV sterilization back on. All right, so we'll start here with what most people would consider I would consider like a 90s, early 2000 marine classic, the lionfish. Top, you'll see a lot of different more unique things. I definitely think we have an amazing selection in freshwater, but you definitely do see some cooler, more bizarre things in saltwater. We've got stuff like orange toadfish here, plenty of pairs of clownfish that you'll see dotted all over the place, marine angels, eels. These are definitely some of our.
What kind of eel is this?
That is a zebra eel. So those guys are a crustacean-based eel. They're not more of like a predatory. They're not going to be picking on your fish so much as they're going to be eating stuff like crabs and the like. Otherwise, they would be considered a pretty reef-safe eel. One of our favorites here is our golden pufferfish. You don't see these guys around a whole lot, and he's definitely got a lot of spunk and personality. He loves to come up and say hello to us when we're walking by. So he's got lots of beautiful color, and he looks like he's sticking his head out to say hello. Some of my favorites, we do have some flounders. I've got a male bird wrasse. Some of the less common stuff you get to see in the aquarium world. I've got a French angel in right now, and I've got a zebra grouper. We had never seen one before when they came in, and we just had to get them. Another unique fish, something definitely to keep your eyes out for, is we do have a scorpion fish here. You do not want to touch this guy. If I were to pull him out of the water, I would show you he does have spines along his back that will inject you with a pretty painful toxin.
This would
So we've got another sand filter here for our filtration, and then the other amazing thing is I do have a protein skimmer here. And if I just step up next to it, you can just see the size of it. It's about 9 feet tall, and it definitely does the work for this row. It definitely puts to shame a lot of protein skimmers in people's homes. When they say they've got a big one, I kind of laugh and tell them you haven't seen anything yet. So we're getting down into some of our more reef-safe fish. So I've got plenty of different tangs. I've got powder blues. We've got Red Sea Deskardinite sailfins. I've got a large purple tang who's living in here with some mollies.
Remember when these guys used to only be 50 bucks?
Yep, I remember hearing stories about my boss buying them for less than $10 a piece. And since they've been banned, they've definitely been harder to get in. These are captive bred. And then as you go along here, we've got large Scopus tangs. We've got flameback pygmy angels, not to be confused with your classic flame. Something you don't see a lot. Another one we have is the Moorish idol. Definitely a classic in the reefing world.
Now, as for your water parameters, what do you guys typically try to keep your parameters at? Salinity?
Salinity-wise, we try to stay hyposalinic, which basically means we're trying to keep our salinity lower than what you're going to keep in a reef tank.
So like around 1020?
The reason we do that is to help prevent against a lot of illness and disease. It helps protect the fish from a lot of different parasites and that sort of stuff that need the higher salinity to survive. So we like to keep our salinity kind of around the 0.018 to 0.0121.
Okay.
Or 0.0 to
1021.
Yeah, 1021. We'll take a look up here. This is our.
So I see you have your live rock
yes,
here.
All our live rock here. Perfect to grab, take home, and piece together a new tank or add more to another one. This is where a lot of our wrasses live and some of our designer clowns. We've got a pair of mocha storms in here living with a large colony of yellow chorus wrasse. And something everyone always dreams of keeping in their aquarium. We do in fact sell seahorse here. All right, we can go down here. On to the other side of our reef row, we've got some larger hippo tangs in here. Something, again, that, like we said, people would definitely bring in fish for us to rehome and take care of. These are some of the larger hippo tangs that have actually come from us, and they've made their way back to us. These guys started out about the size of a quarter, and over the process of about a six month to a year period, people have just kind of brought them back as they've outgrown their tanks. As we get over to this side, this is where you start to get into what some people would consider the cream of the crop of any saltwater store. This is our selection of coral. We got everything from $20 corals that can start off with your beginner Duncans and trumpet corals and clove polyps, and we go all the way up to I've got several $100 scoli. But we'll take a look here. We've got a lot of our different corals, as I said. We've got zinnias, trumpets, all sorts of different mushrooms. Just talking about the clove polyps, we've got zoanthids, which are definitely a classic. Your hammers and torches, any member of the Ophelia family, really. But we've got plate corals, we've got LPS, SPS, softies, everything.
Okay.
Definitely a lot to pick from. And one of my current interests for myself is actually the Aiken Lords. We just loaded up on these the other day. I've actually got about 20 of them sitting right here right now. Water changes.
As for the water change, do these tap into the reservoir up front?
We actually have different reservoirs. The reservoirs up front are for our sale. I can show you where our reservoir for personal use is. You can't really see it, but behind that pegboard there is actually our 700-gallon RODI drum. That's the other drum we do use here. That one basically, its purpose is to do large volume water changes, or we can use it to mix or retail water for sale. What we do is we go back here. We have our saltwater mixing vat here. This is a 150-gallon vat. I can fill it up. I know when it's full, I know exactly how much water is in here. I don't need to measure my salt. I'm able to cup the appropriate amount of salt into the vat. And I'm able to mix it up here, and I can choose whether I'm sending it up front or I've got these different storage vats up here that we're able to use when we want to do water changes on our system. Pretty much concludes the tour here at Gerbers Tropical Fish.
All right, I appreciate your time, my man.
Thank you.
All right, we just wrapped up at Gerbers Tropical Fish. Well, we just arrived at Petco. Let's see if we can get in here and do a comparison of how they operate versus the local fish. And unfortunately, they declined wanting to be shot on video. They kindly explained saying they didn't know all of the tank-specific parameters on how to answer those questions. I'm going to try to do this at a different Petco, a different day, and see if we get anything else. All right, well, we're at the second Petco. A bunch of freshwater fish. Let's go and see if we can find a blue-green chromis. Why do they have their lights off? Their saltwater section is so small.
Green
chromies.
Yeah,
You're on.
and if you can, grab your biggest one. Now, do you guys know what you typically try to target your salinity at?
You grab my thermometer for you. We're at 0.027.
What? You mean 1027?
Yes. 1.027.
Actually, you're a lot higher than that. You're at like 1032. If you turn it, you can get more clarity out of it. But that also depends if that thing's actually calibrated. I'll check
Probably
it.
not.
I'll check mine when I get home. How long you guys been having algae problem?
Honestly, they make it clean, and about the next week, it's really rough again.
And typically with algae, it's because of high phosphates and high nitrates.
Yeah, they have protein skimmer. I know they keep having to clean more frequently than they were used to.
Is it?
Aquatic specialist, so we're trying to.
Yeah, are these systems all plumbed together into one sump down here, I take it?
No, they're two.
I mean, like this side has a sump and this side has a sump.
Yes.
Okay.
Is that all for you?
All right, that'll do me.
All
Thank
right,
you.
guys, have a good one.
All right, well, I think there's one clear winner here. Salinity value of 1032. I'm going to double check that with my refractometer when we get home, but yeah. In conclusion, I think there's one clear winner here. Always support your local fish store in your area. Since Petco wasn't very familiar with what the parameters were on their water, I did double check those when I got back to my house. I found that their salinity level was at 1.018, which is right around par to what your local fish stores would run their values at. Also learned that their refractometer needed to be calibrated since it read 1032. I also tested some other parameters, including their phosphate, and their phosphate was very high. It read at 0.90. Their nitrates read at 26.6. Their pH was at 8.0. The ammonia reading was at 0.27. So if you enjoyed this video, please be sure to like, comment, smash that subscribe button. And until the next one, I'm out, guys. Peace.